The Chaos Dwarves are back! Holy shit, that is amazing! That's like my favorite army ever! My first Warhammer army! Oh, wait, hold on. How long ago was that? Oh no. Oh, we're in 2025, and the Chaos Dwarves are back! Oh. Oh no. But hey, on the bright side, at least they're carrying the banner of Trump and Xbox, as that is the only thing I can imagine that this obvious T on a stick mounted above the Xbox logo could conceivably be communicating to me. Fair warning, this is going to be one of those videos where Arch complains about how much better things were in the good old days, because these new Chaos Dwarves, oh boy, they have some issues. One or two. In fact, one of the main issues is that they are drowning in stuff, in detail, in design, to the point where you can barely see the dwarf beneath the multiple layers of horns, gilding, jewels, gilded pseudo kind of beard thing, although we don't know if there's beard actually, because there are beardless dwarves now, weird looking impractical weapons, etc, 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 including double tactical rocks, one for each foot. But right, before we get into the nitty-gritty of things, Chaos Dwarfs were my first exposure to Warhammer Fantasy, as my grandmother had spotted the codex in a toy store and thought, well, my weird grandchild likes English things, this is apparently in English, and it's colourful, I shall purchase this for him, and I loved it. I read it to pieces, especially the battle report inside of it, which was Chaos Dwarves versus High Elves. I read that dozens and dozens of times. I probably read that more than my other memorable gift from my grandmother, which was Animal Farm, at the gentle age of, I think, 7. That was an interesting book. I vividly remember thinking to myself, this isn't very happy. When does it become happy? And the answer to that is 20-odd years later, when you realize that it's actually about the inevitable collapse of communism. But anyways, I was hooked on Warhammer. I went to the toy store and I bought everything they had, which wasn't much. Tyrannok Chariot, the Wood Elves Codex, and a set of Blood Bowl miniatures. No actual rules for Blood Bowl, mind you, just the miniatures, because nobody knew what Warhammer was back then. And unfortunately, far too many know what Warhammer is today, which gives us these things. And okay, let's begin with the most obvious, shall we? The Beardless Dwarves. The Darvizar are dwarves. They believe themselves to be the proper dwarves. They view not having a beard as being equally shameful to their mountain-dwelling cousins. They wouldn't have beardless dwarves, and the only way I can conceivably see this as making any sort of sense, even from a Games Workshop designer standpoint, is that they're women, I guess? Mind you, dwarven females have beards too, but you wouldn't expect somebody hired at GW in 2025 to know that, now would you? As the others have beards. Like, one of the key core calling points of the old Chaos Warriors was those massive curled Assyrian beards. That's like a key defining feature of the model, and they shaved some of them. This is yet again that point I keep making over and over again, that Games Workshop don't even know what the fuck they're making anymore. They have no interest in Warhammer Fantasy or 40k or anything else, and therefore they're incapable of making anything that is actually Warhammer Fantasy. As, okay, the original design was rather busy. Sure, it was. It had a lot going on. A lot of arrows, which gave them a certain chaosy feel, the rounded shields, the massive beards, the huge axes, the massive top hat, of course. Quite a lot of detail, particularly for the time. This drowns in detail, though. At least the Chaos Dwarf one was still clear. You could still know it was a dwarf, whereas here, God, You can barely see the dwarf beneath all of the nonsense. The skirt has the shield's details has details. Everybody is carrying gems on their foreheads, on their shields, and their beards. Why? What is the deal with the gems all of a sudden? That's not a Chaos Dwarf thing. If anything, it would be the exact opposite. And every one of their weapons, even their banner poles, have magic glowing fire shit now? Why? What does it do? Does the magic glowy fire shit make the spear hit harder? Why doesn't this get one? Why doesn't this guy get a magic glowing thing on his mace? Because there are other maces with magic glowing stuff? Or is it simply just another pointless detail added on to further drown the model as... Okay. Making a setting myself, I understand that it is easy to fall into the trap of chasing uniqueness. That you're like, oh god, we have to make something especially unique. It has to be something weird, something people never have seen before. I know, we'll take a hobgoblin, we'll mount a gong to his back in the single most inconvenient way possible, and then we'll make a naked dwarf dude with a stick who bangs that gong as a drummer. Wow! And then we'll drown them in jewels and gold details and random horns, and we'll put rivets on their shields, we'll put horns on their shields, fuck it, we'll put jeweled horns on there, etc, 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 until you end up with something that I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore. What's the inspiration from this? Where did this come from? What does it look like? Some kind of weird cross between High Elves and Skaven, almost. Everybody's got warp fire for some reason, and they're obsessed with the forehead jewels, a High Elf trait. All I know is that he's got virtually nothing to do with the Chaos Dwarves. That is the one thing I'm absolutely sure of, that this ain't got shit to do with the old Dwarves of Fire. And it continues throughout all of the models. Well, like the sword. Okay, so you are a very short person, right? Pretty much everyone is larger than you. In this situation, you are unlikely to want a slashing weapon for the obvious fact that you're not going to have anywhere near as much wallop in it. You're not as tall, you're not going to have as much energy, and not to mention, you're going to be hitting the lower parts of the target. If anything, you'd want to be stabbing the bitch, right? But then you just have a gladius. In fact, a gladius, especially with the large shields, would make incredible amounts of sense for Chaos Dwarves, but well, no. We've seen that before. What we do instead is we'll give them a sword, and we'll grind down the tip. Yes, that is so adequately retarded that nobody has tried it before. Correct. That is so retarded that nobody's tried it before. You're entirely on point there. I mean, oh god, this one too. Like, drowning in its own details. Absolutely drowning. And I want to bring up this one. So this isn't from the Chaos Dwarf. This is from the Underworld. There it is, right in the box. So it's a different kind of game system rather than Age of Sigmar, right? This box art. Tell me, am I the one who's completely insane here, but does this not have like a weird, almost AI feel to it? Not that it's made by AI, I don't think AI made this, but more that it's, you don't know what you're looking at here exactly. So you've got a fat dwarf woman, backed up by another fat dwarf woman, I presume, fighting a deer centaur thing? He's wielding an over-designed spear that looks like it'd break the moment it hit any piece of armor here, and the fat dwarf woman is wielding fire in one hand as she wields more fire around her sword in the other hand, and this person has like a sword on top of his banner. You know how the AI often doesn't know how to draw weapons, right? And so it makes like swords with like two blades or whatever, or it doesn't hold it correctly, so it like shoots out of the hand. Like it doesn't know where to put all of the bits, right? So it just adds in random things in random places. That's what this feels like. Like an AI was thinking to itself, okay, I gotta fill the frame somehow. So we're gonna have like a deer guy over there, and he's gonna have this like weird over-designed spear. We're gonna have a fat dwarf woman over here, and she's gonna have horns, she's gonna have fire, she's gonna have a sword, and we're gonna have another dwarf woman over here, and we're just gonna slap a sword on top of her banner pole, because that makes sense. That makes complete and utter total goddamn sense. Lack of direction, lack of intentionality, lack of focus, lack of a solid idea of what you want to convey with the piece seems like it is endemic to the Chaos Dwarf. Like, this unholy mess as well. It's a dreadnought but a cow, and its belly is on fire. Okay. I'm sure its belly is on fire because that's its fuel system or something, but why? Why do they have this? Is this some form of personification of Hashets? Not really. I mean, in that case, you'd be better off with a bronzen bull, honestly. And they do actually have some cool-looking models with that. I don't have pure hate for this, but mostly. Or the Earthshaker cannon, or the Tormentor bombard. Again, like, at least the Dreadnought is cool, right? It's a big cow with its belly on fire, with flamethrowers for arms. I can see the charm, but here... Okay, it is okay to simply just have a big-ass mortar. Like, when I look at this, I know what that is. That is a giant-ass mortar. Its name is Earthshaker, and its shells are the size of a Chaos Dwarf. I get it. It's all the information I conceivably need. It's a huge gun that fires bombs. All I need, all I want. This, okay, so it's got giant tractor wheels on front. It's got a plow for reasons unbeknownst to anyone. What, do they ram things with it? Is it an improvised siege battering ram? They run out of ammunition? What does it run on? It's got a giant green waffly warpstone cauldron at the back, swirling with shit. Does it fire magic? Does it fire swirlies? Does it fire a projectile? Does it just, like, shoot goop like the Hellfire cannon? Or, not Hellfire, Hell cannon. What does it do? Why does it do this? Isn't this infinitely more complicated than just making a gun? How much extra shit how many extra hoops do you have to jump through to make the green Hellfire liquid ram cannon when you could just have a gun? Over-design, yet again. The Bull Centaurs I kind of like, although they're over-designed again. Too much stuff on them. The Bull Centaurs are supposed to be these big, tough, brutish, solid things. They're supposed to be huge, heavy, impactful, with the big-ass body of a dwarf on top of the big-ass body of a bull. Whereas here, like, the size of it kind of drowns in their clothing again and their widened stances. You lose a great deal of that feel of solidity. And also their maces have magic in them because the magic makes mace hit harder for reasons unbeknownst to anyone. And this one's carrying what I'm assuming is a weapon chain, which isn't affixed, because if it's simply just like a piece of leather that you attach to a belt, well, the belt is here, and the mace is longer than the entire length? There's a word coming up to height and length. The height of the Bull Centaur, meaning that he'd be stepping on the mace all the time if it's supposed to be hanging from his belt. So I'm assuming weapons chain, but not equipped. Or even better, in all due likelihood, over-design yet again. Hey, what if we had a dangly bit to this thing? Like, no, just make it a beating stick. It doesn't need to be a magical beating stick. In fact, it would be preferable if it was not a magic beating stick. Because if everything is magic, if your cow is magic, if your cannon is magic, if your sticks are magic, if your guns are magic, if literally everything is magic, then nothing is magic. It makes it less unique, if anything, and more beardless dwarves here that looks weirdly like orcs for some reason. And again, what are these weapons? What the fuck are they? Some kind of sonic weapon, plague cannon, shriekers, flamethrowers? Fuck only knows. Then look down the corner, blunderbuss. Did you think blunderbuss when you saw this glowing Doom 2016 weapon? Did anyone? Again, lost in the fucking Constantine. And again, they too. What is with the head jewels? This guy doesn't even have a helmet, but he still managed to affix a head jewel somehow. What, are they dwarven spirit stones? Are they channeling the Eldar somehow now? These are the actual flamethrowers, by the way, which if anything looks less flamethrowery than the blunderbuss thus. I'm assuming yet again the magic provides the flame rather than a fuel tank, so the magic does whatever the magic needs to do. If the magic needs to fuel a cow, the magic fuels a cow. If the magic needs to produce ammunition for a cannon, it produces ammunition for a cannon. If the magic needs to make a mace hittier, it'll make a mace hittier. If it is used for blunderbuss ammo, etc. Magic bullshit that does anything. And the dangly bit. What the fuck are the dangly bits? Can you imagine? I mean, this guy's the first to get friendly fired, as every time he turns his head, ding, 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 ding. I feel like the other Chaos Dwarves at that point will go like, Frank, you deserve this. Just because he's annoying. The one thing I kind of like, the hobgoblins, okay? And they're hobgrots now for some reasons. Or actually, no, I know the reason. It's because hobgoblin probably isn't trademarkable, whereas hobgrot is. Now, they are way too Lord of the Ringsy to me. Like, because this armor, this particular style of armor, is directly taken from Warhammer's Lord of the Rings tabletop game. The angular nature of it all, it is so like Isengard stuff, right? Was I Mordor? I don't know. But it feels very un-Warhammer Orcish. The hobgoblins, of course, were characterized by their Thracian hats. Here we have two, because they're the same model twice. So we've got two of those. That's their calling card. The hobgoblins have big axes, they ride huge wolveses, and they've got the Thracian helmets, or hats. That is their defining feature, and the fact that they betrayed all the other greenskins. That's how you make them different, not with all of this extra weirdness added to them. Again, you are detracting from their uniqueness rather than adding to it. Glowy bits, everything glows. Weirdly enough, his standard has a beard, but not the regular dudes. Okay, so, for a moment of praise, right? I do like this. I don't like it more than this. This is still better because the Bull of Hashud being an actual bull, being a personification of their god, a greater demon in essence, was way cooler than this. But I do like the prismatic effect almost. Like the hard edges here look very cool. That is a striking effect. Now, yet again, this kind of has the good old-fashioned Age of Sigmar problem of drowning the actual focal point, the magic user, in the bigger model, which something they have constantly. If you look at the Teclix new mount, for example, it's 90% mount, 10% Teclis. And again, none of this is Chaos Dwarfsy. I also want to point out, okay, so the Chaos Dwarfs, all of their shit is magic now. All of their weapons are magic. All of their sticks are magic. Their mounts are magic. Their machines are magic. Everything is magic, right? The magic part of the Darvizar were a unique dividing line between them and the dwarves. It was how they viewed themselves as superiors to the dwarves, having managed to overcome the silly superstitions against magics. However, they are still dwarves, which means that the Darvizar, when they use magic, will slowly turn to stone over the course of decades and centuries, etc. As their magic, the magic literally ruins their bodies. Their bodies and the dwarven physique is rebelling against the usage of magic. And so basing the entire fundament of Chaos Dwarf society on everything being magic, instead of a incredibly jealously guarded resource held only by the sorcerer tyrants, who wield this authority, this power, to lord over the other Chaos Dwarves, even at the expense of their own lives, yet again simply sweeps the legs underneath the entire theme and point of Chaos Dwarfs. Ugh. GW has lost the plot for a very long time now. I've talked about them losing the plot for a very long time now, and I mean, we can kind of see it already. I was never a fan of the new Chaos Dwarfs with the little helmets and stuff. I always loved the good old-fashioned ones. They're cool. The Hell Cannon, I suppose, was now an early indicator of them pushing towards this everything is magic nonsense attribute. See, the Hell Cannon was cool because it was unique. Nobody else used magic in this way. Like, this was an incredibly rare and dangerous usage of magic. This was a unique achievement that only the Chaos Dwarfs could possibly have achieved. Now, everything is magic. I wouldn't be surprised if their fucking refrigerators are powered by magic. If their entire civilization now runs on green swirly goop from Ghostbusters. Oh well, I suppose. I'll be straight with you. Like the Age of Sigmar stuff that we're seeing here, or the new Warhammer, etc., I don't like it. I don't like any of it. Age of Sigmar, too high fantasy for me. Too much magic, too much nonsense, too large of a scale. The new Warhammer Fantasy stuff that are pushing out, which I'm assuming the Chaos Dwarfs will be in as well, same problem. Too much magic, too much nonsense, too much bullshit. I don't want magical ice weapons on my Kislevits. I don't want swirling goop on my Chaos Dwarfs. It's supposed to be a low fantasy setting, where magic is rare, but it is handled by a handful of individuals, usually who are either really ancient, or go through some form of official schooling, or who need to suppress their powers lest they be judged by society around them, or viewed as witches or necromancers, and hunted down by random witch hunters and so on. And weapons, magic weapons, should be absurdo rare. The rune fangs took, what, like 200 years to produce or something? The final work of Alaric the Mad Runesmith? An absolutely incredible achievement that has never been matched or superseded at all, but GW is incapable of understanding the concept of inflation. If you make the Space Marines, the masterful creation of the God Emperor, something only he could ever do, then they're rare, they're cool, they're unique, they have gravitas. If they were created in their millions by some random tech priest who read the God Emperor's notes and has ever since been spitting them out on its assembly line with nobody noticing, now they're not cool, they're not rare, they're not unique, they're not special. They're something produced by a tech priest. They're cogs in the machinery. Same with magic, with stuff like this, and the constant need to layer detail upon detail upon detail. Style over substance, although I wouldn't even argue that there were all that many style points on display here either, but I'll leave it at that. Chaos Dwarfs. I wish they'd returned 10 years earlier. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.